Hey there, I'm Tara from Wild Bird Farm. Today we are going to plant ranunculus in the high tunnel. I have got 3 varieties, 2 trays just like this to get planted. Now as we dig into these and look a little closer, some of them have roots. They've been pre-sprouting for about 2 weeks, but some of them don't. But because of my weather, I decided today was the day to get them in the ground. So here's one that started sprouting. See those little white roots? And now that I do look in here, quite a few of them have them. I would say even a few days ago, I didn't see near as many. Now I did do some fall planting of ranunculus in here. So we'll go down and take a closer look. But about halfway down, I have 100 ranunculus planted. Now those were extra large corms. So I gave them quite a bit of space. And I'm regretting that a little bit because there was 100 there and there's 300 here, and somehow I have to get them to fit in this tunnel. So we're going to try our best today. First of all, let's look at the temperature. We are at the end of January here. I pre-soaked these for a couple hours, and then they've been pre-sprouting in the moist potting soil for about 2.5 weeks. Here was a previous photo I took when I was pre-soaking the ranunculus. I just put them in fresh water and let them sit and soak, and they kind of puff up. Those little octopus legs go from dried and shriveled to nice and puffy, ready to get pre-sprouting. After they pre-soak, I just stick them in about 1 inch of potting soil. Now in this picture, those are anemones, but I do it the exact same way, and then I lightly cover them with damp soil. So I cover them and leave them in darkness in a cool area to pre-sprout. This usually takes about 2 weeks, and you'll start seeing some white roots growing from the top of the corm. We have a run of days here at the tail end of January, which is very mild, which is unusual. I was thinking I would plant these out the first or second week in February. About this time, I would put them under lights to get a little bit of growth going, and then when we had a warmer stretch, they'd get planted out. But looking at our weather today, right now today, currently, it's only 20 degrees outside. It's going to get to a high of 30. But the sun is out, and currently in here, it's 47 degrees. And just for reference, the highest that it's gotten since we got really cold in December in here was 67. The lowest is 24, and that's with several layers of frost cloth. I put this temperature gauge by the ranunculus, which has 3 good layers of frost cloth on it. So keep that in mind. So today the high is only going to get up to 30, but with the sun, I bet it'll get to be at least 60, 65 in here. And then for the next 7 days, we have temps in the 40s, anywhere from 40 degrees up to 49. Now the lows are going to get pretty cold for the first few days. We have lows here of, I think it's 18 tonight. So I'm going to cover everything in here tonight and maybe the next night, but then after that, our temps are hovering around 30. So I'm not going to be covering anything in here when it's that mild. So because we have a warm day today, because I can get my hands in the soil without absolutely freezing them off, and because we have that warm stretch, and by warm, I mean 40 degrees, but ranunculus like it cold. So we are going to get these planted. I'm going to bring you down a little bit closer. We'll look at the ranunculus that have been planted in here since November. I wish I had done all of them, but I got my corms so late that I didn't end up getting the bulk of them in this year. But I do prefer to overwinter them if I'm able to. But let's get a quick look. I'll do a close-up of some of the corms and start planting, and then we'll just get going here. Okay, now a quick recap if you are new to my channel. We put up this 40 by 20 foot tunnel just this past fall. So this is my first growing season in this tunnel. I do have a smaller hoop house just to the north of us there that I've been growing in for 5 years now. So pretty familiar with tunnel growing, but this is a new atmosphere for me. So out late summer, early fall, I planted Sweet William plugs as well as foxglove. And then over here, this entire 40-foot row is snapdragons. Now we've been covering them up as needed with frost cloth in the evening. These outside beds are quite hardy, so they are only getting one layer. The inside bed is more tender, so they started with one layer, but now they're up to 3. So we have pansies down here, and then you can see the ranunculus here, and they're spaced pretty far apart. The corms were so large, I wanted to give them more space. I think I'm gonna have to come back through and maybe interplant in between. And what I mean by that is, in this quadrant of 4, depending on how many corms I have left, I'm gonna come through and plant one right here. And you can see the soil is moist. It's definitely not wet. Now, when we have these warmer days, I bet I'm gonna have to set a sprinkler up in here because I think everything's gonna get pretty dried out. But that is the plan today. Now you can see the ranunculus that were planted in November are looking awesome, and they're gonna bloom 2 to 4 weeks, I would guess, earlier than the corms I'm just putting in today. I should also mention that ranunculus corms take about 90 days from planting to bloom. So I am planting these at the tail end of January. So by late April, we should see blooms on these. Now I am hoping the ones I planted in November, we're gonna start seeing mid-April. I'm in the Midwest here in zone 5, and we get really hot. May is like full on summer for us. So I really just have 2 to 3 weeks of great harvest of ranunculus. So I want them to be big and bold and get a lot of harvest in that pretty small window of time. Now we are able to vent the sides and the ends of the house, and that'll definitely be important when the temperatures inside. If the temperatures in here get much above 60, we're going to be venting this hoop house to keep it cool. Everything in here likes to grow in cool weather, so we don't want it to get to be 80 degrees in here. It might feel nice to me, but the plants aren't going to love it. All right, let's get started. Okay, we are gonna start with the Labelle lemon. I generally grow mostly amandine, but they didn't have any yellow or lemon colors left in that. And I have grown Labelle before, so I grabbed some of those. Now I don't see a ton with roots. Here's a couple that do. So what I did is I just nestled these in about 1 inch of potting soil, and then I lightly covered them. So I am just gonna break them apart, and you can see on this one, those little shoots coming up. It's waking up, and we're gonna plant them with their little octopus-like legs down in the ground, just about 1 inch. So I'm just gonna go through, and this is down, I kind of made my mark right here, if you can see it with my tree tag. I'm just gonna go through, pick them up, dig a little bit of a trench, and get them planted. Okay, here's a close-up of my first row. Now, when I planted the XL corms, I had 7 in a row. I am putting 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 10 now in this row. So planting them closer together, I'm still gonna leave a decent space between the rows. I do wanna give them space to grow, but since I am a little confined here, we're gonna put 10 in a row versus 7. So as you can see, I just used my trowel to dig a trench, kind of like this. You can see the soil is moist. It's definitely not sopping, but it is damp. And then I come through and lay my corms, and then I will just cover them up with about 1 inch of soil. So I'm going to get going on this. I will bring you back when I come through. We'll see how many extras I have, and we'll fill in some gaps here. Whew. All right, that took just under 1.5 hours. It felt good to be planting in the soil, but I am not conditioned for it quite yet. Looking at the temperature, it is 64 in here, so the sun is warming it up. Now, in addition to the Labelle lemon, I also had amandine cream and Amandine Barbie. So about a third, down to where you can see green. Now I did have about 15 of the Barbie left. So I'm gonna go down, I'm gonna poke those in between the XL corms. I think those were called Tiger Amandines. I hadn't grown those before, but I picked those up. So I'm gonna go plant these 15 down in or holes where one maybe didn't grow or I have a little too much space. And then the plan is tonight when it gets down to 19, I am going to cover this whole row with 3 layers of frost cloth. But then after that, when the temperatures aren't dipping lower than 28, 29 degrees, I'm just going to leave them uncovered and then make sure to vent in the daytime, especially if the sun's out, because as you can see, we are just past noon here and it's already 64 degrees in here. So that is the plan. Let me know down below if there are any plants you are starting this early in the season, or maybe you're in a more mild climate and you already have your ranunculus in the ground. Until next time.